So I love feeling like I'm getting away with something, making something really cool from something really cheap. In this case, I'm going to give this mini a makeover. I'm going to take this mini that I got as part of a Magic the Gathering board game and turn it into this guy. So let's get started. So we're going to start off with snipping off the base. Now I used a pair of these metal shears, but you can also use like poultry scissors. Any pair of good scissors will do the trick. I just happen to have these laying around. And then I'm going to attach it to a 1" by 1" piece of the Dollar Tree foam board, just to give it a wider base and to give me some more surface area to work with. And I'm going to hide the ridge between the original base on the mini and the foam by adding a little bit of hot glue on there to smooth out the transition between the two. There's a little hanging over there. You can just kind of wipe that off with a piece of foam. Don't wipe it off with your hands because it is going to be hot. And I'm just going to temporarily attach it to this little mini holder that I've made. It's just a couple pieces of wood from my garage. It just makes it easier to hold it when you're painting. And I'm going to base coat it in this green. And I also add a little bit of water on there. You can see it doesn't completely cover, but I'm okay with that because it actually adds some more texture to the final piece when you have a little bit of variation right off the bat like that. And once that's dry, I'm going to do a wash of olive green and water, and just kind of dip that over the top to give that skin some more definition. And once that's dry, I'm going to do some highlights on it with this lighter green, and just want to dry brush this on. Again, I'm pretty conservative with my dry brushing, so I'll rather do a lot of layers until I see that it looks the way that I want it to look. Now you'll notice in this figure I'm painting from basically the lowest layer to the highest layer. So the lowest layer in this case is the skin of this creature, and then I'll work my way up from there. That's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to paint in his kilt. I'm not really sure what it's called, but I'm going to call it a kilt. And I'm going to start with a mid-tone color. The main methodology that I use for all my painting is I paint on a base coat of a mid-tone, and then I do a wash of a darker version of that color, and then I do a dry brush of a lighter version of that color. So here I'm putting on a mid-tone for that kilt, and I'm also painting in some more definitions as to where it actually is because it was unclear on the figure where the kilt ends and his leg begins. Now I'm also putting on the base coat for the belt. Now you'll notice on that piece of paper towel where my paints are on, that is actually wet. And this is really a very handy trick. First of all, it leaves the paint in a wet state for much, much longer. And it also enables me to determine the thickness of the paint that I want. I mean, I can literally just take a bit of the paint that's seeped into the paper towel more if I want it more runny. If I want something that's full strength, then I just take it from the bubble of paint in the middle that hasn't actually mixed with the water yet. So here I am finishing up the belt. And then I decided why not do a little red bracelet too. He's got this kind of bracelet of skulls around his hand there. Why don't we give that a red band to match his red belt? And you'll notice I'm using the thinner part of the paint here because I want it to go on really smooth, and I want to keep that sharp edge on my paintbrush because it's delicate work. And then I'm going to start with the skulls that are on his kilt there. And this is just an ivory. And I'm going to do the same thing on the skulls on his wrist. And it's nice. Basically, I can leave these paints on there for like a half hour to an hour, and they'll still be wet on that paper towel, which is great. So I can actually paint these things in, let the figure sit for a few minutes, and then come back, and once the figure's dry, I can keep painting with the paints that I pulled out an hour ago. It's really nice. It makes it really fast. It makes it a really nice and comfortable way to work. He's got this metal shoulder pad thing going on, and I thought it made sense to have that in copper because he's, you know, probably poor or primitive, so he's not going to have it made out of, you know, some great metal, and I thought the copper would go great with that red belt. So again, this is the base coat, so I'm doing a base coat in the copper, and later on I'll do a black wash to kind of bring out some details, and then I'll do a dry brush of silver, so it'll actually look like the edges are worn. And it's a really neat effect. I do this on a lot of areas that are supposed to look like metal. I'll do, you know, I'll do a gold base color, and then I'll do like a silver for highlights, and then I'll do a black wash, and sometimes I'll even add a little gold to that black wash. Now here in the back, you'll notice that that collar didn't actually, there was no definition in the model for it, so I just sort of painted in. My best guess is what it would be back there. And I thought it'd be kind of cool to bring that copper idea down into the belt too. Who's to say that there's not a metal edge on that belt, right? So I put a little copper accent around the top of that red sash. And I decided to put a little bit more olive green wash on there because I wanted to darken him up a little bit. I wanted to give him a little bit more definition. And yeah, I really like how that came out. Again, with washes and dry brushes, you can do it as much or as little as you want. It's not like if you do it and then you don't like how it looks, you can't improve on it later. You can't make it darker, you can't make it lighter. As long as you have a base coat of paint on there that's in your midtones, like I have a midtone green on for most of his skin, you can add as many washes as you like and as many dry brush sessions as you like until you get it to that mix of light and dark that works for you. And here I'm going to add a brown wash to our tan midtone for that kilt. And that brown wash will also double as a wash for the skulls on his belt. I also use a brown wash for his copper collar, and I also use it for his bracelet there. It all kind of tied everything together, and it just sort of has to be, I wanted something that was non-black. So I put that in there instead. Now here you can see that I'm adding a black wash around that belt, and that's sort of to hide the seam between my copper paint accent and also to sort of accentuate the difference between the belt and the rest of the body so it sticks out a little bit more. It also kind of covers up in case I messed up with paint at all. You know, if the copper didn't fit totally right, that black wash will creep into the seams and sort of hide any imperfections. And here I'm dry brushing on some silver accents onto that copper collar. In the back there, I kind of had to fudge it because there's really no ridge to kind of grab that paint. And here I'm adding a little bit of that silver dry brush to the top of the copper accent to kind of make that jump out a little bit more. And since I had done another session of that green wash, I added a little bit more dry brushing just on top to kind of reintroduce those highlights a little bit more. And here I'm putting some highlights onto the kilt with I think this is a khaki that I was using. And just bring that out a little bit more. And I let it hit the skulls too, it was okay. It sort of fits in that ivory family of colors anyway, so that's all right. And just to bring those skulls out a little bit more, I put some more ivory on top of those skulls again. And now I'm putting on some full-strength glue onto the base because I want to give it some more texture. Again, I'm trying to hide that sort of transition point between the old base and the new one. So I'm going to put on some glue on there, and then I'm going to take some dirt from my yard and sprinkle that all over to give it some nice texture. And once this is dry, I'll go ahead and paint that as well. Once that's dry, I'm going to add some thinned out glue to it and add some flocking to it to add a little bit of a grass effect. And I'll add a link to this in the description. You can also find all the ingredients and everything that I use at GameGearMaster.com. Some of the links will take you to Amazon. They're Amazon's prices. It doesn't cost you any more, but clicking on and buying through those links does help this channel, so I appreciate that. And here I'm just using, I couldn't find my eyedropper again, so I just used this little pick to put on some of my 50-50 mix of PVA glue and water with a little bit of dishwashing liquid in there. And cover the entire base and just let that dry. And then we're done. So yeah, so we took this figure from this Magic the Gathering box, which didn't cost a whole lot. I think I paid, you know, you know, a few bucks for this box. I think you can get it between $5 and $15 on any given day. So yeah, it's a great deal even if you don't play the game. So till next time, thanks. Please like and subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified of new videos. As my thank you for your support, I've also put some free downloads for you at GameGearMaster.com, including a free PDF that lays out the details on the different Terraino building blocks. And I'll be posting more free stuff there, as well as game gear, D&D adventures, and other stuff you can buy to support these free videos. So thanks again.